Hello and welcome to this presentation on the method of constant comparison within qualitative research. Our three primary objectives in this short presentation are to define what we mean when we say constant comparison, to provide some context in order to understand where this method fits into the larger picture of qualitative research designs, and to walk through an illustrative example of how to apply this technique. In a traditional qualitative research design, the researcher collects data on the phenomenon of interest, whether that be through interviews, focus groups, or field observations, for example. Once data collection is complete, the researcher then codes the transcripts or notes to search for keywords and categories, and then analyzes the data, looking for overarching themes, commonalities, or explanations. One step logically leads to the next, as if following a linear path of stepping stones. In contrast, constant comparison is an iterative method of data analysis in which the researcher begins coding and analyzing data as soon as it is collected. As explained by Watling and Lingard, as the data are examined, incidents are compared with other incidents and with the emerging characteristics and properties of the category. This means that insights and information gained through this process then inform further data collection. For example, by altering the population or sample of data you are collecting to better explore an emerging theme. Also, you might refine your coding scheme to more accurately reflect the categories or ideas that are developing through your preliminary analysis. In other words, your path of data analysis is no longer linear, but instead more resembles a trail that weaves back on itself. So where did this idea come from, and where does it fit in with other qualitative methods? Well, the concept of constant comparison was introduced by Glaser and Strauss as part of their description of grounded theory. Grounded theory is an inductive exploratory method of research in which the goal is to develop a theory that derives from close examination and analysis of empirical data. Constant comparison is key to this pursuit because it allows the researcher to be flexible and responsive to the data as it is gathered in order to better inform theory development. Two additional key concepts that are closely related to constant comparison in grounded theory are theoretical sampling and thematic saturation. Theoretical sampling occurs when the ongoing process of coding and analysis guide the researcher in how to be purposeful in the type of new data collected. For example, if the initial data from a study on the experience of female physicians navigating a career in academic medicine were to suggest that older female physicians face particular challenges, the researcher might intentionally seek out additional older physicians to interview, or might add specific questions regarding age discrimination to their interview protocol. Thematic saturation is the point at which the researcher determines, through the process of constant comparison, that no new significant themes are emerging in the data being collected, and that enough data has been collected to fully address all relevant aspects of the themes that have emerged. This is the point at which data collection can stop. Also, while you will be working on generating and refining your theory throughout this process, you will not be confident that it is solidified until you have reached the point of thematic saturation. So what does this look like in practice? Let's take the example of that study on female physicians in academic medicine. Glaser outlines 4 steps within the constant comparative method. The first step of the process is to code the initial interviews right after they are complete to create categories, compare what concepts are found within categories, write memos with early questions or insights, and begin to delineate the theoretical properties of each category. For example, you might come up with the categories of work-life balance, stereotypes, and mentorship, among others, that emerge from your initial examination of the data. What commonalities do you see between concepts falling into each category? What differences? Also, for example, what type of stereotypes are we including? Next, examine how these categories can be integrated and how they interact. For example, you might find that early career mentorship and a supportive leadership culture are mutually reinforcing, whereas a predominance of stereotypes against women adversely affect the mentorship that female physicians receive. As you continue to collect data, for example on age discrimination, You further refine your category on stereotypes to include age, for example. Finally, as you near the point of theoretical saturation, your theory that explains the phenomenon of interest becomes more clearly delimited or defined. It is more solidified because it is informed by more data and has been repeatedly tested through the process of constant comparison. You have fewer pieces of new data you need to explore, and your coding schemes are more well defined, so these arrows are now smaller. At this point, you can hopefully achieve more parsimony and clarity in your theory and better define its scope. Finally, once you are satisfied that your theory sufficiently informs your research question, you can go forth, write, and hopefully publish. I hope you found this presentation helpful. For further reading, please refer to the references listed, and thank you for listening.